Good morning, everyone. So I'm doing a little, never picked up poi before fundamentals lesson. The first thing I think that's really useful for learning poi is, first of all, to have some good poi that you can always have with you, have close by. Having some soft poi I think is really useful for a lot of reasons. And then, as far as having them just in your hands as much as possible, there's a few little tricks I've learned to keep them close to me. And these are ways of tying them onto yourself. The first way that I think a lot of us learned is there's a couple ways of just putting friction on the knot. One way is you can just give a little twist with one, and then that's enough friction that you can hang them around your neck, and they're not going to pull apart. Give them a little untwist and ready to go. The other way that I like to do is you can kind of turn your poi into a belt. If you give them a little twist and bring the one head on top of that, now you can take them and wrap them around your waist if they're long enough, and then give a little twist. Twist one side through, twist the other side through, and give that a little pull, and that's not going to go anywhere. And you can have your poi around you. You give them a little tug on the handle, a little hop on the head, and you're ready to go again there. Third way that I use a lot is if you're wearing any kind of a rope thing around your waist, then you can grab the poi just above the head and bring that loop up through whatever your rope is. And then take the handles, bring them around the front, and then pull a loop in through behind that first loop. Kyle Grover, I think, told me this is called a blight. And then pull on the loop, pull on the head, give it a little tension, and you're good to go. You can move around, those won't come undone. Then if you take the handles and give those a little tug, you're off and ready to go again. Second thing that I think is really useful to tell beginning poi enthusiasts, and this is a big shout out to Bernie Dan and Nick Woolsey for all of the inspiration and all of the ideas over the years. They put out a video together about a similar concept of what to do with your poi when you first pick them up before you do anything else. Because right now you're a clean slate. You're what some philosophers call the beginner's mind. You haven't learned anything, there's no form, there's no structure. This is an opportunity you have to explore from neutrality that you'll never have again once you've learned things. And this is just to do nothing. Put the poi in your hands, fling them around, and very importantly, hit yourself. This is a big reason why it's important to have soft poi. You want to be able to train without fear of hurting yourself. It will allow you to move freely and not have to slow down and be too cautious about what you're doing. So if you can get rid of any kind of sense of hesitation and know that whatever you're flailing the poi around randomly doing your exploration, and you can just hit yourself pretty much anywhere within reason, that will allow you to move a lot more comfortably through everything else that you're going to learn down the road and all the places that you're going to explore. And I love the original video that Bernie, Dan, and Nick did, so I'll put a link to it in the description thing below the video. Yeah. Hit yourself, explore, play, have fun. Don't do anything, do everything. Alright, the sun just rose, so see what the change in visibility is like here. First thing that I encourage people to do with the poi in motion, the first structured thing, is what most poi spinners I think call pendulums. And this is just letting your arm be kind of slack and let the poi swing side to side. couple things to note here are really this is a training in your sense of gravity, in your sense of just weight and weightlessness and momentum. The objective here for this exercise is as your poi is spinning or swinging side to side, you want to get your arm and the poi as level as possible. So by the time they come or approach to the level of your shoulder, it's all somewhat close to a straight line. Some things to pay attention to accomplish this are you want to let the poi fall back down naturally before it goes slack. You don't want to leave your arm there for so long that it loses the tension on the poi. You want to give it a nice steady swing back and forth. If you do let the poi go slack, I would call that poi leading. So you let your arm hesitate for a moment. You feel the weightlessness of the poi when it is swinging up against gravity, and then you let that start falling back down, and as you feel that tug return back onto the poi, then you let your arm follow it. Other way to go about this, which I think is also very useful, is as the poi is approaching the downbeat, you give your arm a little bit extra momentum, and so for a moment the arm is ahead of the poi. And what that gives you is this combination of feeling the upbeat, the weightlessness of the poi as the poi swings to the height of its apex. You let that fall back down, and then as the poi is reaching the downbeat, where the momentum of the poi is most in line with the pull of gravity, and so you'll feel the most weight of the poi, you give your arm a little bit extra speed so that you're spinning with a little bit more force, and that's going to put more tension on the poi, and it's actually going to give you a lot more control. That allows you to put more swing into the movement. You can create more tautness and get that level effect a lot more. As the poi crosses your body, another little variation is you could not extend your arm all the way. This will be useful later. Next exercise with pendulums is spinning the poi, swinging the poi side to side, and I want the poi to always be on this track. Nick Woolsey talks a lot about spinning on tracks. So imagine you have a line drawn in front of you, or there's a lot of paint on your poi, and every time you swing it, it draws a line on the floor in front of you. Always keeping the poi on that track. I want you to explore with rotating your body around. So the poi is still on the track, but now I've turned my body so that the poi relative to me is on my side, swinging back to front instead of from left to right across my body. There's a bit of a range that you can explore with this. You can kind of turn away from it just a little bit, and if you turn your elbow inwards, that gives you some range of motion behind your back. Similarly, if you turn your elbow outwards, that gives you some range of motion behind your head. Similarly, you can turn into the poi instead of away from it, give you a little bit of a crossbody spin. Here again, you can play with levels a little bit. Bring your arm higher, bring it lower, see what that does. I think an important thing to note here is when you get into swinging with the poi on your side, and you start going behind you, you're gonna prolong your shoulder longevity a lot if you don't overextend your arm back. Your arm isn't really designed to bend this way. You'll have a lot more freedom of motion if you give yourself a slightly wide stance, a little bend in your knees, so that as the poi and the arm swings back, you're able to open your torso up with it, and instead of your arm just pulling back like this, you bring your shoulder back with it, you open your chest up kind of to the direction that the poi is going, and that allows you to have a full extension behind you. Alright, so that's pendulum swings on all the sides of your body. And then we also have pendulum crosses. So using that upbeat of weightlessness, you can either decide to, here, I'll face you for this, you can either decide to continue back on the same side of your body, to stay on the track that you were on, or at that moment of weightlessness you can say, alright, I'm going to let it drop down on the other side of my body. So now you're in this cross-body position and you're still in your pattern. And similarly, every time it's at that cross point, at that moment, that upbeat of weightlessness, you can say, I'm either going to fall back on the same side of my body, or I'm going to fall back on the other side of my body. And this gets you started on crossing from side to side of your axis point, which is going to be your hand. Similarly, you can play with this on all kind of body orientations. You can do it on your sides. You can do it in your sort of warrior or archer position where it's crossing from front to back. You can do it a little bit across your body, but this is going to start getting to the edge of your range of coordination and motion. So it's going to be a little bit more tricky, but still possible. And then you can also do this exercise with two poi. So you can do all your pendulums, spinning the poi together. You can kind of do the same body turn stuff a little bit. So now it's a combination of cross the body and not cross the body. You can do your same crosses this way. You can do one poi cross back to the middle, other poi cross back to the middle. You can also do this, rotated so that it's on the side. Good. Now let's not get into that for now. You can do separated poi, together poi. One poi crosses so they're separated, one poi crosses so they're in front. And in this particular example, my left poi is always staying in front of my body. My left poi is not crossing. Do it also on the other side. Everything on both sides in both directions whenever you're practicing any trick. And yeah, little row your boat. Alright, now we're going to get into spin. So if you want to start from your pendulum, the way that you transition into poi spinning is as the poi is coming down, instead of letting it stop at that upbeat, you start moving your wrist in a circle, and that extends out into poi. Little exercise that you can do to get both directions are then as the poi is coming down, you move your arm with it, go back into pendulum. You can do let's say like poi to left, spin, spin, and pendulum, pendulum, and then poi to the right, spin, spin, and pendulum. And then everything both sides, both directions. Pendulum, 2, 3. Let's do it. Okay, so at this point let's talk about downbeats and upbeats in the spin. We talked about this in pendulums a little bit, but also in the circle, you have the moment where the poi is down, and this is really useful when you start dancing with the poi. Rhythmically, the downbeat is the easiest thing for people to feel in their body and count with the rhythm of a song. So you have 1, 2, 3, downbeat. You can translate this into your pendulum exercise. If you do, with pendulum, it's downbeat, upbeat, downbeat, upbeat. So you do 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can do it on the other side, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm bad at counting, but hopefully you get the idea. Counting the downbeats. Just like with pendulum, you can also do your spinning in your different body orientations. You can turn away from the poi, and you can turn your elbow out so that it's down by your hips, or you can turn your elbow in so that it's more up by your head. You can also turn into the poi, so that's across your body. You can play with some levels here. Try everything with the other poi. This is where both directions really become relevant, because you can do your poi spinning to one direction, or you can get your poi spinning to the other direction, and then you play with all your body orientation exercises here. Another thing you can get into, especially now with the spin, is not just body orientation, but also body level and position. So the poi, I think most comfortably for everyone, is going to be this sort of close to right angle, neutral position, resting just above your hips. But the arm can really be anywhere while the poi is spinning. The arm can be forward, can be straight up, it can be close to your body, or it can be far away. And you really have this whole half of a hemisphere that you can place your hand anywhere you want in, and the poi will, keep doing its thing. I encourage you to just explore all of this space, see what's comfortable, see what's not comfortable, and just have fun with that. This leads me into the next exercise, which I think is helpful. And this is an exercise that Nick Woolsey calls saloon doors. This is a way to develop your plane control. The way that this works is you have your poi spinning in a circle somewhere around your body. Again, orientation doesn't matter a whole lot. It's poi's kind of where it is, and it's where your body is in relation to it. But now we're going to start taking the poi off of its track, and we're going to bend it over to other planes around your body. So here the poi is making a circle in a plane on the side of my body. You can kind of imagine two wheels, huge wheels to the side of me that the poi is spinning in. And then I'm going to take that wheel, and I'm going to imagine it's a door to a saloon. And right now it's open. I could walk through it. And I'm going to take it, and I'm going to bring the circle that my wrist is making slowly in front of me so that the saloon doors close. And once they're in front of me, I let them get a sense of that, and then get a sense of what it feels like to push the circle back out. This is really the key, is being able to say, I want to be in a particular position, I want to be here, or I want to be here, and it's not there. So I want to get a sense of what it feels like to move it back there. In order to do this, there's a few cardinal positions that I think it's good to practice moving between. The standard basic one is always start at your side and close your saloon doors. So in other words, bring the circle in front of you, bring it back to your side. You can also do circle behind you, kind of bring it into your angel wings, and give it a little pull back to your side. Next one I would say is give it a little bit of a party shirt, bring it up into a helicopter sort of a position so that you're doing this sort of swing over your head, and then give it a little pump up and down to bring it back to your side. So I'll go over that again. You let the momentum slack a little bit to bring it actually takes less force, or it takes more consistent force to spin in a horizontal plane compared to a vertical plane, so it's a little bit less effort all around, or more distributed effort, and that brings it into this circle over your head. Notice again, every time I'm moving the poi in a certain position, I'm always paying attention to the circle that my hand is making. So right now my hand is really drawing a circle over my head, and the poi is just following that. To get it back down to my side from this position, I give my arm a little pump up and down, and that drops it back into vertical. The last cardinal sort of position in this exercise is, again, you let the poi lose a little bit of momentum so that it falls underneath your hand and it drifts towards your leg. This one I see a lot when people are trying to do vertical plane moves, is they'll spin really fast, and the poi will oftentimes fall towards their leg. So this is I think a particularly useful one to get used to correcting. If the poi is arm outstretched, if the poi is drifted down towards your leg, and now it's making a little circle under your arm, in this one you want to give it a little bit of a lift, and that lift as it's going out brings it back up into vertical. I think you can also think of it as a drop down. As it's coming in closer to your body, you give it a little boom, a little beat, and again, that's a way of getting it back into vertical. So just to recap that, you have close the saloon doors, you have back into angel wings, you have up into party shirt, helicopter, pump back into side, and then you have drift down towards the leg and pump back into vertical. It's like a boom. Now we're going to start getting into crossing, or figure eights, or crossing the body. So out of your basic spin, you face this way. So out of your basic spin, just like when you were doing your pendulums, at that moment of upbeat, or when it's level with your arm, you let it fall back either to the same side or back to the other side. Similarly, when your poi are in spin, as they're coming down the side of your body, as they're in between the upbeat and the downbeat, at that moment you can decide you either want to let it fall back down on the same side of your body, or you want to let it fall back down across your body. So every time the poi is up and it's about to pass down by your legs, you can decide you either want to let it cross down back on the same side or cross back on the other side. So if you do this continuously, it's called a figure eight, because your wrist now, instead of making a circle, is actually drawing an infinity symbol, or a sideways figure eight, in the air in front of you. And that cross point is going to be kind of right around eye level or right around shoulder level. And Nick Woolsey notes that it's kind of helpful to look at that cross point. Just pick an imaginary point in space and see if you can always paint your cross through that same point or a similar point. It'll give you a little bit of a cross control. Then doing this both directions, so poi are spinning you're spinning one way, cross, or you're spinning other way, crossing. And I think it's helpful to linger on one side. Again, as you're doing your crosses, orientation is relative to you. You can keep the point crossing where it is, and you can move around somewhat. You've got all the same level stuff. You've got all the same distance stuff. You can keep it in really close. You can make it really wide. Things to play around with. Maybe as you're doing body crossing, some of the major arm positioning to note are your basic, so sort of at your neutral arm level position. Then this is crossing from left to right, side to side, and then I think your next one would be if you take a step out. So now it's crossing from in front of you to behind you. A lot of poi spinners I've heard call this the wall plane. Anatomically it's called the coronal plane, if that helps at all, but it's crossing from front to back. And this is kind of your archer position or your warrior position where your arm is extended out. You can bring this in close, you can make it extended out. And then the other one would be crossing side to side and turning into the poi instead of away from it. Now you get your self-love position. This is where you're hugging yourself, and it's over across your shoulder. You're gonna probably have a little bit less coordination over here, because at this point it's hard to get the poi away from your body, so your planes have to be a bit more accurate to not hit yourself here. It's pretty common to hit a leg, which is that bending down that we talked about earlier, and being able to pump it back into vertical. And so you don't have as much wiggle room to do that here, but that closing the saloon door exercise is very useful to do everywhere, even in weird places around your body. So you're doing your hug cross here, and if you want to practice your plane control, you can hang out behind you and give it a little bit down and back up, a little bit up and back down, that sort of thing. And then cross side to side again. So there's your hug, there's your basic, and there's your hug. Now we're getting into two. So spinning two poi at once, I think the easiest place to start was having them both on your sides. So that looks like there's a track on one side of you and track on the other side of you. Now from here, you can also play with your orientation a little bit. You can play with your arm position relative to your body. Neutral position, I would say, is kind of right here with the arms at hip level, but just like you did with one poi exploration, you can bring the poi further out, you can bring them up or down, or anywhere in these hemispheres. You can send the poi either together, you can leave one where it is and move the other one around. This is your range that you can explore. So getting into crosses with two poi, the first exercise I think is good is give yourself a little bit of a turn out, and you leave one poi where it is. You can get it back here out of the way a little bit, and then you look at your other poi and you give that a cross from side to side. So now you're leaving one poi where it is, and you're doing your figure 8 cross with the other one. Crossing side to side. Do this facing the camera. So poi on your sides, give yourself a little turn away. You get one poi out of the way, and now you're doing your figure 8 crosses with the other one. You can do that with both hands. Play with your levels, whatever. And then same thing works backwards. Quick side note, when I say forwards and backwards, I'm thinking if the poi, say the poi were a wheel, if the wheel was rolling forwards right now, then that's the direction I would be going. And if the wheel was going this direction, then I would be rolling backwards. So that's what I mean when I say forward spin or backward spin. So, doing your backwards, cross, 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 right? It's good to hang out on one side or the other side. Practice. Hang out here, and that starts getting me into wall plane or coronal plane. So if you're starting on your side and you bring one poi cross in front, now both of the poi are in front of you. Something important to note here is you're creating a negative space with one poi that the other poi is spinning in. So if I do it facing on towards you, and say right now my right hand is going to stay where it is, and my left hand is going to cross in. So right now, when the poi crosses in and both the poi are on the same side of me, there's, I think in what visual arts is called negative space, where if this were to be a snapshot in time, then this poi would be creating one shape here, extend out to my arm, and then another shape extended out to my body here. So dynamically then, what's happening is the poi that's crossing from side to side is going into that negative space in between my arm and my body. I think the idea is if you were to bump up the contrast on this so that my body and the poi were a silhouette, the body would be the black space, and then the empty space, the negative space, would be that little window that you have to put your other poi in. With poi, something else important to note is your range of motion here is you have about until the point where the one poi is going to start hitting the other arm. So can't bring it any closer than that. But it can be as far away as you want. So it could be anywhere from here to somewhere around there. One useful little control exercise here is when you bring both of the poi to your same side of the body, initially the poi that's crossed your body is going to be on the inside. It's going to be on the negative space closer to your body, and the poi that stayed where it is going to be on the outside. At this point, you can switch which one's closer and which one's further. So that's just one poi moves forward, other poi moves back. Spin the other direction. So crossing poi on the inside, and just give them a little switch. So now the poi that was on the original side of my body, native side of the body, is now in the negative space. You do switch, 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 switch. This starts getting useful as you want to turn your body. So one poi at a time, what this looks like is every time your poi crosses side to side, you have an option now, just like where you have the option of saying, I'm going to let the poi fall back down on the same side of my body, or I'm going to let it fall back down the other side of my body. Every time it's either in front of you or behind you, or to your left or to your right, you have the option of saying, I'm going to leave my body where it is, or say when it's across my body, I'm going to turn around now. So now relative to me it's spinning, poi stays the same direction, but like if If I'm facing this way, it's spinning forwards. If I'm facing this way, it's spinning backwards, right? But now I've turned around, and I can do the same thing. If I want to continue turning my body in the same direction, I cross the poi again, turn into it, and there I've turned around. You can turn back the other way by saying, instead of crossing the poi and then turning into it, I'm going to turn into the poi, and then I'm going to uncross it. Turn into the poi, uncross it. All the different directions. Turn into the poi, cross. Turn into the poi, cross. Or cross the poi, turn away. Cross the poi, turn away. So with 2, you can do the same thing. You can do cross one poi, now they're both in front of you, and then turn away. So if you look at this now, now my left poi is across my body. So I just uncross it, and there I've turned around. So continuing, I'm going to cross my body with my right poi, I'm going to turn to face my left, and then I'm going to uncross my left. And there I've just turned in a full circle. So going again to the right, if I want to turn towards my right shoulder, I take my left poi, cross my body, turn to my right, and uncross my right. And then turn all the way around. So cross, turn, uncross. Cross, turn, uncross. Other way. Cross, turn, uncross. Cross, turn, uncross. And that's turning around. Alright. Last thing I think I'm going to do today is get going on reels. So when you're doing your step-by-step turning around, the poi generally always stay in front of you, or that moment of poi on the same side is always going to be in front of your body. So poi both come to the same side, and then the other one crosses to bring you around. The idea with reels is similar, but a little bit different. You're going to turn your elbow out, you're going to let one poi drop down behind you, and then you're going to turn your body first. So you're kind of turning away from your poi a little bit here. This allows you to scoop down in front and set back down on your other side. Reels are traditionally done as back and forth, so you're doing 180 turns. To go back the other way, it's let me just do it. It's a scoop, dip. Okay, so starting from forwards direction, you're going to give yourself a little scoop behind your body so that both the poi actually go behind you for a moment. It's right poi behind, left poi kind of carries you around, and it's like a little bit behind your arm for a moment, and then they both step back down on the other side. Do that again. Right arm scoops behind, both of them kind of go into this turkey feather thing for a moment, and it brings you back around. Turkey feather, like scoop. They sort of plant on your hips for a moment, and it's like behind you, turn, release. Behind, turn, release. One scoops behind. Then going over is similar. It's dip, off. Do that again. So it's dip, turn, off. Dip behind you, turn your body, and they come off. With me, I kind of let them bounce off my shoulder a little bit. So it's, feel that, and then it bounces off. I don't know if that's helpful or not. That might be more complicated. Another way to think about this is you are on your sides, and you bring the poi out, do a big swoop, and then set back down. This is going back a little bit to the original way, but it's a way of tying them together, and I think it's helpful to get the way of doing reels dipping behind your body. And then similarly with up, it's a out, big scoop, and set back down. This is an exaggerated way of doing the same. In front, set, and then both in front and set. So it's that same thing, but every time it's in front, I give a little scoop down, front, a little scoop up. So scoop down, uncross, scoop up, uncross. So the motion of coming in front of your body immediately brings the second poi across your body. So here, right hand goes over and sets down on the other side of my body immediately without doing a beat in front. So the cross, instead of a downbeat there, it's downbeat over. It's just over, or swoop, set, over, immediately brings it across. So at this point now, the poi are never at the same side of your body at the same time. It's always on the other side of your body. So as my right poi is coming in front, there's a moment there they're kind of on the same side, but as one poi is coming in front, the other one is simultaneously coming across your body on the other side. So moment where they're both the same and cross back to the side. So as you're getting into the reels, the hip reels and the shoulder reels, you do your hip reel where they're like momentarily on the same side, but then as one is crossing here, one is crossing at your hip, does an upbeat behind you and crosses your body. As one is crossing at your hip, the other one is crossing on the other side. And then similarly when you do it over the top, different sides of your body, one crosses, one drops behind your shoulder, downbeat behind your shoulder, and then as it's crossing your body, your whole body turns, poi stay kind of fixed distance, about shoulder width apart, and the whole thing sets down the other side. So put together, shoulder hip reels continuously will look like this. Hip reel, lift, shoulder reel, hip reel, shoulder reel. So as it comes down, it goes immediately into the cross so that you can turn your body. So it lifts up, sets, turn, drops right down into hip reels. And then you got this hip. You kind of have 4 positions that you're doing beats in here. It's going to be right side hip, left side shoulder, right side shoulder. So I think I'm doing a beat here, I'm doing a beat here, doing a beat here, doing a beat here. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can actually count the downbeats with that. Downbeat, 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 if that helps. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And one last thing, and then we're done for today. Get into split time stuff next video. Is hip reels turning 180 degrees. Like technically you're spinning forwards here, you're doing a 180 turn, and you're spinning backwards here. 180 turn, spin the other way here. But that's a lot of footwork. To get around that, we just do plant the feet, kind of hip width, horse stance, facing forward, and we let our upper body rotate to side, instead of bringing our whole foot thing all the way around. Forwards, backwards. Just hit the dog, it's fine. Oh, yeah, but you can also use shoulder hip reels to turn in 360s instead of just back and forth in 180 degrees. The way that works is scoop around to the other side. Instead of coming up back to your right shoulder, at this point you bring your foot around and you come up the other shoulder. So it's the same idea. It's still that dip behind you to come around, dip behind you to come around. But at the moment where the poi are on your sides, it's the same principle in all crossing. At that neutral position, you have the option to say, I'm either going to continue to the direction I'm going, or I'm going to go back to a different direction. So here I can either go to my left, however you want to do that. If you want to scoop them both in front of you, scoop in front, or if you want to do the dip behind, and then right here, I can either continue to my left or I can go to my right. And I go to the right, to the left, to the right, to the left. So you can do this facing both directions, means that you can transition both directions. I can go back and forth there, or I can turn all the way around. If I think of a way to elaborate and break that down more, I might have more to say on that later. But here I can either go back that way, or I can continue this way. That allows me to turn in circles.